Okay, so welcome everyone to the presentation tonight, Whole of Sport Participation Drivers, part of March Matters series. My name is Blair Chalmers. I'm the Senior Manager Participation and Engagement for Hockey Australia. Just got about 13 slides here to go through tonight, and a couple of links to some Sport Oz pages, and just by way of introducing you to the enormous amount of valuable resources that you can find on the Sport Australia page. First of all, Hockey Australia acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional custodians of the land and the waterways throughout Australia. We pay our respects to the elders of the past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their ongoing connection to land, sea and community, for they hold the memories, the traditions and the cultures of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across the country. We extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples tonight. And I'm coming to you from the land of the Anawan people in northern New South Wales. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the NPEP, which is the National Participation and Engagement Plan, and how we came about finalising that process. Just very briefly, it was a process that was commenced in 2020, about mid-2020. And finalised by the end of 2020. We were really fortunate to be able to co-design the plan with Sport Australia, and I found that, and we both found that process very valuable. We consulted with all our 8 member associations, that's the states and territories. We did a SWOT analysis based on that. There was 36 individual member club consultations, that was clubs and associations from around each jurisdiction. We spoke, we had 2 presentations to the member association CEOs via their meetings, executive leadership teams, the Hockey Australia board, and also the councils were updated and presented to at various times through the development of the plan. We had a member association workshop that contributed to it. Then we had 8 individual follow-up consultations with member associations, and 6 revisions of the draft participation engagement plan was undertaken. So it was quite a thorough process, and I have to thank Matt Waugh from Sport Australia who worked with me on developing this. The outcome was a 2-year national participation and engagement plan for 2021 and 22. We've got 9 participation priorities, and that's based on the participation drivers, which has been developed by Sport Australia in consultation with other national sporting organisations, and I'll be going through them tonight with you. Within the plan, there's 21 key objectives and 28 measures of success, which is about half of what existed in the previous plan. And naturally, you can see that it finishes this year. Towards the end, we talk a little bit about it, but to let you know, we're going through a process this year in moving beyond 2023 and beyond, and what participation plans will be in place for us and member associations, clubs and associations at grassroots level. The 9 participation drivers that we will briefly go through, but we're going to focus on 3 throughout the presentation. And the 3 are these ones: market insights, product design, and also workforce. But I'll just briefly go through the 9 participation drivers. The key here, what Matty Waugh and I were looking at doing over this 2-year period, was trying to get member associations, clubs and local associations to start using terminology and language around the 9 drivers, so that when we move into 2023 and beyond, we can sharpen up the strategies around that language. So the first one is market insights, and the definition is around ensuring that all decisions are based on data and evidence about the market. And when we focus on that, I'll give you some indication as to what we have specifically in relation to hockey that meets those market insights. Product design is developing products. In hockey, we've got a product for everything. It's not that we don't need to design more product. We just need to identify what product meets the community needs. And again, when we talk about that more specifically to hockey, I'll identify some playing formats that suits certain communities. The workforce, how products are delivered to the marketplace. So, you know, you're part of our workforce. Our workforce is mainly volunteers doing in the coaching and officiating space, managers, conveners, canteen staff, those administrators. Without volunteers, obviously a sport like ours wouldn't operate as well as it does. But they're the three that we'll go into a bit more detail in. The other six: marketing and communications, messaging and methods used to communicate internally and to consumers, being members and participants. And I just want to highlight that from a participation perspective is that we do use the terminology members and also participants. So we've got our memberships. So we know how many members we have in the organisation or that play hockey as a member, but we've also got participants, and participants might be when you run schools programs like sporting schools or schools roadshows. They are what we class as participants. So most sports count memberships and participants differently, and obviously the participation number is always much more than the membership number. Infrastructure and equipment, providing appropriate, accessible and affordable infrastructure and equipment. That's paramount to our sport, particularly around the infrastructure when we're talking about facilities that we need to have in place to help deliver the sport at the level that's expected based on what we see on TV. Not discounting that. There's plenty of areas within our hockey community that thrive on grass fields. I can name quite a number right now that have great participation numbers and they play on grass, particularly at that entry level program. Commercial, developing sustainable participation products and commercializing related assets, bringing different forms of revenue into the sport. And I know that our revamped marketing and comms team is really focusing on that right now. The final three is governance. Some of you, if not all of you, were on a session last night with Nicola and Hamish from Sport Australia around game plan. Governance is obviously a part of one of the 13 categories that are offered within game plan, and it's something that comes up in our organisation quite a bit around what grassroots members are raising about their local community. So governance is really, really important to achieving, you know, targeted participation outcomes. And game plan is a great tool that we can use to help facilitate that and streamline it as best we can. Unified behaviours, whole of sport approach to participation. Hooking a hockey is a good example of possibly unified behaviour, or more so than what it currently exists is where we're hoping it goes to. That's the approaches that we use are very similar across each of our 8 jurisdictions and within our 900 plus clubs that we have in our sport. And then management, the experience, expertise and performance of the management team. Again, game plan's a really great tool to look at management structures and what management is about. As I said, we were going to focus on 3, and I just want to dive into these a little bit more. So I've just changed the wording a little bit to be more hockey specific. So market insight. So for example, we have revolutionized sport, which some of you might be more familiar with now, that everyone's been on it for at least two years, and some have been on it for as many as 4 and 5 years. But there's a lot of insights that we can get from revolutionized sport. Member engagement survey. We've just started, you've probably filled in a member engagement survey, whether you're a new player, a returning player, or a lost player. And we've just started the process today of developing the new member engagement survey, which will go out to the whole hockey community on the 4th of July. So that's hot off the press for you all. So 4th of July is when we'll be releasing the member engagement survey. And that's for all players, officials, volunteers, and to fill in, and they'll be filling in parts of the survey that's more relevant to them. And then local consultation obviously occurs to help develop those market insights. The town hall discussions, I've been a part of a number of them, and I'm sure you all have as well. where you just open up the floor to people to provide ideas around what might be needed locally to accommodate the needs of the membership or participants. I just want to go into that market insights a little bit more. And it takes us to the Sport Australia website, which I really do encourage you all to have a closer look at that. And this gives a little bit more detail around generating participation through market insights. But I particularly want to go to AusPlay, just to let you know what a great resource Sport Australia has for us at our fingertips. That just provides a bit more detail on what I spoke about earlier. But as I said, I'll send this presentation out and these links will be available to you. But I just want to particularly look at AusPlay, which is another great resource for us. And we'll go to some AusPlay results. And then we'll just look at some key findings here. So this is just one example of what you can get around market insights. And I've just pulled up volunteers in sport at a glance. So this is in sport in general. And you can see here that 92% of these are volunteers. 3.1 million Australians aged 15 plus help run community sport by taking on non-playing roles such as coaches, officials, administrators, and team managers. So 92%. Down here, we start to talk about parents and players are a significant part of the volunteer workforce. So 69% of volunteers have children in their household. So when you look at your volunteers, there's children there that could very well be attracted to our sport that their parents are volunteering in, and it's a great opportunity for us. 55% play the same sport they volunteer in. That's probably not surprising to you all. 18% of adults 15 plus in outer regional / remote areas volunteer compared to 13 in major cities, even though participation rates are similar. So those regional centres probably have people that are more able to volunteer because ease of transport, ease of getting around, those sorts of things. But that's interesting for us to know, and maybe wherever you're from, interesting for you to note as well. 66% of team managers are women, and 62% and 62% of coaches are men. That's something that we're really working on here at Hockey Australia, but also know that jurisdictions have a focus on women. I know Hockey Victoria has. I know New South Wales has started a coaching program around getting more female coaches into the sport. And again, that figure probably doesn't surprise you, but we're looking at increasing the number of female coaches. And I'm really keen to get to the nationals, and I think we'll see a more equitable range of coaches there across each of the jurisdictions. 14% of adults overall volunteer, compared with 8% from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds or from the lowest income households. So that's from a diversity perspective, that's a really interesting statistic. How can we attract more volunteers from those cohorts and those communities? And we probably ask the question, why aren't they volunteering? So I just wanted to show you that as a way of accessing market insights through the Sport Oz website. So that's market insights. Again, it's understanding your marketplace, being our community. And I know that you in your local community has probably been a part of that hockey scene for maybe 10 to 40 years, and you've got a great understanding. So, but it's able to get that and then apply some strategies to help facilitate growth in whatever cohort you're looking for. Product design is another one I want to look at. And as again, I've said to you previously, we've got so many products in hockey, and that's just the nature of our sport, is that we have people that can think outside the box. We have hook into hockey, we have minky, which could be hook into hockey. Mini boroughs is just a term that I picked up from somewhere else. Super Nines, Fast Fives, Hockey Sixes, which is a social form of hockey developed by Hockey Victoria. And then we've got indoor. But if we go into product design from a Sport Oz perspective again, just to show you this resource, we've got an expanded explanation here on what product design is. Again, going through what some SMART performance measures are. That's an acronym, SMART being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. That's what we have applied in our National Participation and Engagement Plan. And again, I'm just going to pick one here. Participation, products and experiences. And then if I go down to case studies, and then if I go to, I'll just use surfing. Now, this will be a video that we can't make full screen, but you should be able to, oh, actually, I'll play it and I'll see if, can you let me know if you can hear it? Hold on 2 ticks. No, sorry, the sound didn't work. Apologies for that one. So what I wanted to do there was just to show you what surfing was doing in relation to attracting women to into their sport. And what there is, there's a lot of what they say it relates to surfing relates to hockey at the same time. So what I'd encourage you to do is when I send this out to you is to have a look at that participation products and experiences and see the surfing video, and it will be able to, you'll see similarities between what surfing are experiencing as well as what we're experiencing in hockey. The last one is, is workforce. And our workforce applies to coaches, officials, both on the field and off the field officials, mentors, educators, administrators, managers, conveners, etc., canteen staff. There's probably other workforce people that you have in your facilities. We have centre managers. I know at Newcastle there's a centre manager, those sorts of things. So, but again, if I click on this one here, just to go back to the Sport Oz website, provides a bit more things. Consider strategies to recruit, develop and retain coaches, deliverers, officials, administrators, etc. Best examples, best practice examples and case studies for clubs. How to partner with teachers, private providers and facility operators to deliver sport. So that just expands on that overall definition. But I'm just going to work towards something here. They have a coaching and officiating framework where hockey is the star in this one because we're on the front page. I'm just going to, there we go. There's Possum Read. Again, if I go down here, we'll look at things like how will, say, for example, how will your training program participants be assessed? How will your training program be delivered? I'll just pop into there. And it just gives us a few more examples around the types of delivery modes. Actually, there was one I wanted to show you around assessment. It talks about what is direct evidence. So we've got direct evidence, indirect evidence, and supplementary evidence. And so if you're looking at assessing people in coaching and officiating or any particular role, these are three definitions, or these are three sources of evidence. And direct evidence is the one that we most value because you can actually observe someone performing the role here. Indirect evidence, around role plays or trying to simulate activities. And then there's supplementary, which is around, someone supplying their CV references or letters of support. Again, I know that it's about assessment, but the way it relates to participation is that we've got to get the right people in the right positions to deliver our sport. So that's really critical. So if we have coaches that aren't engaging with a younger cohort at that entry-level program, I think you all know that that's a problem. I think if we have the right people in schools delivering schools roadshows and sporting schools programs, and then children get excited about hockey, and then they end up going to a club, and I've witnessed this firsthand, where an older gentleman was the coach. I heard him yell at the children 3 times, and I think I witnessed one children touch the ball 3 times in 1 hour. Compared to a 40-minute schools program where they've got a stick, they've got a ball, they've had 30 to 40 touches, it's been uncontested, but it's been competitive in some sort of game format. That's really engaging, but that didn't transfer over to clubland because we probably didn't have the right coach for that cohort. That coach might be great in a more of a senior team. So it's really important for us to focus on the workforce here. And I do believe that having coaches, having coaches in the right spots is critical to our retention strategy. And then if we've got coaches that also can treat officials fairly with respect, that sort of helps as well. If we've got officials that can manage a game well at an entry-level program versus a Premier League contest, that sort of helps to help retain members and spectators as well. So they're the 3 I just wanted to focus on there. And we've got all of those 9 participation drivers in our national participation and engagement plan with hockey specific ones. And I'll show you the plan a little bit later, but we won't go through that in detail because you can access that yourself. But I just mainly want to get across those participation drivers. Just to do with the workforce, just on that, and I know Foxy's on the call. He's helped us with this immensely as well when he worked with Hockey Victoria. This is our coaching and officiating framework, and I just wanted to highlight this as a way of indicating how Hockey Australia with their member associations are working to try to develop the workforce in a more meaningful way with a bit more rigor involved. If you could visualize the old structure, level 1, level 2, and advanced sort of thing was probably sat within this space here, that lead space, just a real vertical structure. The officiating had a little bit of lateral stuff, horizontal stuff happening here, but basically it was a very vertical structure we had. This would have been community, level 1, level 2, and advanced. What we've done, we've brought in a horizontal stream here, and it allows people to go from, they're not forced just to go up. If they want to be the best foundation coach, oh, sorry, I'll go back. I was going to stop clicking. If they want to be the best foundation coach, they can go horizontally here and become what we're calling a foundation facilitator in this space here. And they could be world-class deliverers within that entry-level program. If they want to be a Colin Batch and a Trini Powell, they can live in this space up here, okay? And I just wanted to show you, because I know that some of you will be accredited coaches or accredited officials, and this will be in the presentation. So, and it's also on our website, but I just pasted it into this presentation for you. So if you're a level 1 coach at the moment, you're sitting in this space here. So you're a foundation lead coach, and you would have received some emails last week, probably 3 of them around updating your Hockey Ed profile, particularly to put in your gender, because that wasn't captured for years and years. So if you were to update your Hockey Ed profile, you will start to see these terminologies used. So if you're a level 1 coach, you'll see the terminology of foundation lead coach. If you're a level 2 coach, you're a development lead coach. If you're an advanced coach, you're an advanced lead coach, and so on. So that's just that's in consultation again with Sport Australia and Cam Dredell from Sport Australia, coming up with a framework which is consistent with what they advocate, and we could see the merits in producing these horizontal streams here. And this is a brand new space for us here, this mentor educator space. We've always had people that were assessing people at certain levels. If you're a level 2, you could assess a level 1, for example, or a level 1 could assess a community coach, but they had no training around being an assessor. And the assessor sort of role fits within this educator pillar here. And a mentor role is, if anyone's an official on the call, if you're an assistant umpire manager or umpire manager. You are basically a mentor here, and all those people will be undergoing some training in relation to being a mentor at whatever level they're wanting to do it at. So that's us trying to build the capacity of our workforce, which are the coaches, officials, and all those volunteers. We'll have governance modules in there as well to help in those spaces. 2023 and beyond for the National Participation and Engagement Plan. I'll just go to that now. This is the document that was produced at the end of 2020. And just to briefly induct you into it, if you hadn't seen it before, some nice words there. This is the purpose of the sport. Then we've got some values here, which are leadership, integrity, excellence, and inclusion. And also we're tossing around, because it came up through a whole staff meeting or planning day a couple of weeks ago, community is another value that we're thinking of introducing as part of our 5 core values. A little bit of data there for you around about the new, returning, and lost members, historical data, of course. And then we get into our 9 drivers here. Now, I'm going to skip past these because there's a 1-pager that you can access here, and it'll be too small for you to look at now, probably on the screen. But these are the 9 drivers: market insights, product design, commercial, workforce, marcoms, infrastructure equipment, governance, unified behaviours, and management. These are the objectives, the 21 objectives that were developed, and these are the 28 measurables. Now, the thing about these 21 objectives, when Matthew, War, and I did all the consultation, we deliberately had no preconceived ideas. And from the consultation, particularly from the community, when we did an analysis of the consultation, these objectives just were drawn out. They just appeared. So this plan is really, truly grassroots driven, and this was the outcome of that. Then our role was to try to identify some measurables based on SMART principles on how we can measure whether we've met these objectives here. So moving, and also just to help you out a little bit more, let's go to market insights. If you're an association or club that wanted to work on market insights, for example, hopefully this works. Yeah. So market insights, you can click on that within that 1-pager, and we come up with the objectives, and we come up with the measurables. And then here, you could talk to your state body or your territory body, depending if you're from NT or ACT, and get an understanding from them what actions are they taking in this space around market insights. And then you could have a look more locally and identify what actions you're actually doing. And it's a little bit based on the game plan model as well, as kind of like a self-assessment. But you're asking, you're the club or the association here, then you're asking your member association, well, what are we doing in market insights? And then they have obviously worked with us in relation to these objectives as well. So they'll be working with us on those objectives also. So that's the way the document was set up, so that we had this working driver document at the bottom of each of these pillars that you could just grab and use as a way of capturing what you're actually doing at your local level. And again, there's just some links here within here that are really key bits of information that can add value to the resource. And we've identified all the people we consulted with there and all the clubs. So that's the NPEP document. So what we'll be doing now is we were going to go through that whole process again, but after discussions with a number of stakeholders, we now believe that the same process will come up with the same trends from the grassroots community, because we think that they've probably always been there. And this has been evidenced through the member engagement survey over the last 2 years, and in some jurisdictions 4 years, that the same themes come out from the community. So we're pretty confident that those themes that came out last year will still exist, or the year before will still exist. And that's even keeping in mind of the COVID experience that we've had over the last couple of years. So we'll be doing some internal consultation with member association representatives, our Hockey Australia portfolios within our teams, our Marcoms teams, our high performance team, our game development team, etc., our events teams, and also with the Hockey Australia board. Some external testing and verification. We'll use Sport Australia again as a way of testing and verifying that what we've come up with for 2023 and beyond holds. And also we'll identify some of those clubs that we did consult with in our previous one that I showed you a list of earlier. We'll go back to them and show them how it's developed more so from 2023 forward. So it's just going to be a revamp of this document, but a little bit more targeted. Obviously, some of the objectives have already been met. Some of the objectives, timeframes may have changed for various reasons, particularly COVID, for example, around events. So the document will be updated through that process, and yeah, we look forward to doing that, to understand where we can support each member association where needed. And also, just I'll stop sharing soon and go back to the screen, but we can just cover up some questions if you like, or some comments. This is my contact details here. And as I said, I'll send this presentation out to you tonight. Tonight I'll send it out, and that's my email address. So I'll just stop sharing that now, come back to the screen. Does anyone have any questions for me? There's nothing in the chat there, but Michelle and Dave, have you got any questions there? Or Mike, did you want to contribute in any way there? Happy for anyone to make a comment. All good. If I was an auctioneer, I'd say it's sold. Okay. All right. So thanks a lot for your time this evening, everyone. As I said, I will send this presentation out. We will top and tail the recording and get that out to you individually, but we also put it on our website. Hope everyone has a good evening and a good weekend. Bye for now.